Now then, this is a slightly scary situation. Just entering the motorway, the M1, with quite a way to go in this MGZS 180 that has no MOT. And I have it booked in for MOT at the garage next door. But two problems. One is that I don't think I'm going to get there on time now. And the other is that one of the brake calipers sticking a little bit. In fact, there are a couple of things that make this a slightly uncomfortable drive. One is the heater is kind of stuck on and it just keeps going on and off as and when it wants to do. The bonnet wouldn't shut, so I've had to gaffer tape it down.
Continue on F1 for 11 miles.
Engine management light on, not really too worried about that. Now, after all, this car came to me at the very best price you could possibly imagine. And that price is zero from Mr. James Martin. Dare I try the window? Yes, that works good. I need the window open because it is very, very hot in here. So I don't know how badly the brakes are actually sticking, or which one it was, because I didn't go far enough before I filled it with fuel when I did the hand test to see if anything was getting too hot, and none of them seem to be. But as you come to a stop, I can feel that kind of thing where it just grabs the ground, and then setting off, it kind of wants to stall a bit. So you want to see a road trip with a bit of jeopardy? I think I've got the right one here. Now then, why have I acquired this car? How have I ended up with this car, you may be asking? Well, nearly 2 years ago, I was watching a JayEmm on Cars video. I like JayEmm on Cars, he's very, very engaging. And I watched the video all the way to the end, enough so I could see at the end it said, if you've something interesting for me to test drive, here's my email. So I emailed him that night with a picture of Nigel. And the next morning he responded and said, oh, that's a rather colourful little thing. And I arranged to go down. To my surprise, he actually really, really liked it. He really enjoyed it. In fact, the thumbnail for this video suggests that he loves it. I was thrilled by his review of it, but unfortunately it didn't exactly do very good views. Compared to the kind of views he normally gets on videos, it was a bit pathetic in fact. However, it's starting to sound like him there, that wasn't the end of it, because soon afterwards he contacted me and asked if I fancied doing a little road trip. I came down, picked James up, we had lunch, we went to Staley Bridge, I went home and he came back down this way. We have remained in contact and chatted via WhatsApp quite a lot, on the phone as well. Come on. You could have just sped up there. A couple of weeks back he contacted me about this particular car and told me basically that it needs quite a lot of welding, which from my experience is actually quite typical of the ZS and the Rover 45 as well. They do have a flaw in the floor pan itself where there's a moisture trap that can rot the floor pan out from the inside. And that's what's happened with this one. And James has basically said that he's not prepared to spend the money on this car, that it needs to get it right. And then went on to say, if I want it, come down and get it. If I can fix it, great. If I can get the floor sorted out, great. If not, it's just parts. And that is the story so far. But what about this next bit? Well, I'm having to drive it without an MOT, which I can legally do just about, because it is genuinely booked in for MOT today. And now I know it will fail, obviously, because for one thing the horn doesn't work and the floor pan doesn't work. What else? There's bound to be a couple of other things knocking about with it. The brakes binding. Now maybe they'll be okay with a bit of use, I don't know. But whatever the case, I am somewhat nervous about this journey because I don't know about you, but I don't particularly feel that comfortable doing a long journey in a car that I'm not familiar with. I don't know what its faults are. And when you go around and you find a couple of faults, then it does make you wonder whether there are any others that you haven't spotted just yet. Because that's always a possibility, isn't it? The difference is that I haven't bought this car from somebody who just wants to get rid of it because they don't want the problem. I've been given this car by somebody who just doesn't want it because they don't want the problem. And you know, I have absolutely no cause to complain about absolutely anything that may not be quite right with this car. But for the moment, all I want to do is just get it back and deal with the consequences of the body, all of the other small things that are wrong with it. So far, how many? The bonnet won't close, the heating won't go off, the horn doesn't work, and of course, the big issue being the welding has been a rather significant issue. It also has quite a few other minor things to deal with. There's a door car that's missing, but there's one in the back. There's a headlining that's missing. But I've got one at work, I think. Or at least I've got the biscuit. First thing is, I'd rather be a bit too warm than a bit too cold, I suppose. And let's say that heat coming off there is a very good monitor of whether I'm losing any coolant or not. The low coolant light does keep coming on, but then the chaps at the garage I picked this up from had to jiggle about with the immobilizer alarm thingy to get to it, so it's probably lost a bit of coolant doing that. As long as it doesn't come on and stay on, and there we have it. We can now speed up a bit up to 70 miles per hour if required, although I'd rather not. That's a nice car. I don't think I'll be going beyond 60 really if I can help it, because one thing, I don't know how well that gaffer tape will hold the bonnet down, and that is not something that you ever want to happen, is your bonnet flapping open on you. And there he is, my friend and colleague. We are now 19 miles into the journey, which is 1/10. That's a significant chunk, isn't it? However, the low coolant light is on properly now. It's not gone off for the past couple of miles. Normally that wouldn't really be too much of an issue if you've got some coolant with you and you can close your bonnet. This is going to keep me on my toes all the way, I can just tell. And, oh, right. Coolant level, low thingy, monitor thing's gone back off again, which is a good positive sign, because it means after 25 miles it can't make its mind up whether it needs any or not. It could be a really bad thing. It could be that it's just suddenly failed and now won't send the correct signal, but I doubt it. Also, I can report that it does drive in a straight line, which is a good sign. I did check over the tyres, but there's a couple of spares in the boot, a couple of spare wheels, and I'm not sure why there's spare wheels in the boot actually, but I'm not going to complain. I have a thought here. It's not to do with this car, but with the amount of trips out that Boaty and I do, we should have a couple of walkie-talkies, because we could be having a conversation right now. He could be warning me of anything that's about to go wrong. Something, oh, the coolant light's come back on. And that would help me take the correct course of action to make sure things went along smoothly. It's happened again, he's disappeared. Every time we go on a trip together somewhere, he disappears out of sight. I can't see him behind me anywhere. And all that does is just make me worry. Worry. It does, it makes me worry. Hey up, what's this here? Why is a Ferrari on the back of that truck loaded in such a way? There's something that doesn't happen very often. Yes. Being overtaken by a hearse. And he's disappeared again. The concept of the Convoy is to stick together for reasons of safety and camaraderie and something else as well. And honestly, I cannot see him behind me at all again. It's not like he couldn't keep up. I'm only doing 60 at the moment. I was going to pull in at the Watford Gap Services, but because he's not behind me, he wouldn't know I've gone in there. I've slowed down quite a bit to way under 60, and now I can see him again. The only thing is, it's really difficult driving this slowly with all these wagons about. Especially when you're getting overtaken by them again. F2POY. Looks like it's a Matt Armstrong special to me. Right, I am starting to feel a bit comfortable with this car now. I'm nearly 50 miles in, and I'd say it's behaved itself. It's some more blades actually. That's something else. I don't really want it to rain because it's furnace hot in here, and I have got to keep opening that window. I haven't taken my fleece off. I should take the fleece off, shouldn't I? Leicestershire, the River Avon. Leicester Forest East. Stopped to have a look at this car. I just noticed it's been debadged as well, as if the boot wasn't empty enough. First proper look at this car besides the one in James' video, and we can see here that what I've had to do is gaffer tape the bonnet down, stop it from just suddenly opening. Even so, I'm a bit unlikely to be going beyond 60 because of fuel purposes. And now it's started raining. Good doing a convoy though, isn't it? If only you could keep up. I don't know. You keep going really slowly for some reason. It is a jolly exciting looking car, from near and afar. That blower does keep giving me a bit of a fright actually when it comes on, because I don't know what it is to start with. Right, I'm glad for the heat at the moment because it's jolly cold. Anyway, bye bye beat. Oh, it's off again. I won't want it to stay off. I prefer it to stay on than stay off, I think. Especially if we end up with any more rain, because obviously the rain would make the thing mist up. So back on the motorway. Right, so that's where Boaty and I have gone our separate ways, because not too long off from now he will be going off to where he is, and I won't. I'm going to stick on the M1 all the way up to the M62 and obviously go west from there. 85 miles in, so not even halfway yet, but I am feeling quite confident in this car. It feels like, although it's got many a small niggle, there's an awful lot of wind noise as well. It might be from the damage on the wing and the door there, but it feels good. I kind of want to put my foot down a bit, but I daren't, because all that, the main objective here is just getting it back to the yard, and I already know I'm not going to get there in time for MOT anyway. Plus, with a bonnet that's gaffer taped down, not a good idea. Now, let's talk about this car. Not this car specifically, but the ZS 180. I think it has the potential to be the best Z car going. The chassis and the suspension setup are amazing. If you've never driven a ZS or a 45, come to think of it, you will be quite surprised by how eager they are to cling on to absolutely every single corner. So this one, with its 2.5 litre V6, not masses of power, but it's enough because it's not a particularly heavy car, although it is quite long. It's so far removed from the pipe and slippers image that the 45 had, or certainly in the earlier days as well. It's just kind of a bit stripped out and a bit naked really. And in this colour, ignition blue, the booted version as well, with the body kit, it has to be the ultimate ZS. And I think that this is worthwhile saving. That corrosion underneath, I don't know how bad it is, hopefully it won't be horrendous, but I think it'd be worthwhile hanging on to until the funds are there to actually do the job properly anyway. Because give it a few years. My prediction is this: in 5 years from now, a good ZS 180 is going to be worth about 6 or 7 grand. $127 miles in, and more I'm just thinking how much I do actually like this. With the exception of the seats, there's no lumbar support, and well, this is at the cheap end of the MG Rover relationship, where they didn't bother with such things, but I think it's something really important when you're on long distance journeys, that you don't end up with a really chronic backache. And finally, on the home stretch, the M62, with about 30 miles to go. Is it off the motorway, journey complete. Well, that was fun, and now I'm back. At least I can actually enjoy the mile or so that there's left to actually do this journey with in this car. Oh, but it's too busy. But we do have the sound and the go. That is fantastic. The sound and the go is just great. Often find this, you take a really nice gentle drive on the motorway and the fuel gauge never really seems to move until you come off the motorway, and then suddenly it drops by a quarter of a tank. And that's what this has just done now. But I think it's done okay on fuel, come to think of it, because it was in the red when I set off, and I put £60 worth in. Well, according to that now, it's just over half a tank. It's pretty good going, actually. I think this car's done well on fuel today. Now then, the car is here. I brought it back, no issues, besides the ones that I was slightly concerned with. It's amazing really that it's got exactly the same damage on this one as that was on Carol Vorderman, which was the same car in the same colour on the same year. That wind noise I could hear obviously isn't from that, because that's not significant enough, but it could be caused by the wiper blades being far too big, or certainly that one is anyway. The gaffer tape has held well. Maybe I even overdid it actually, but 3 pieces of gaffer tape, gaffer tape in 3 places to make sure that this didn't flip open, because it won't latch properly. And besides those 2 bits of damage, the rest of the car is actually quite good really. I have a replacement door for this, but even that's not quite as bad as I was expecting. Bit of damage on the wing there, nothing that much. Front bumper all seems to be quite good, and so does the bonnet, and so does that wing, and so does that door, and the roof is also rather nice, and the boot as well. On the inside, it just needs to clean up that door card fitting and the headlining. The rest of it's all pretty good actually. And whenever you see a bottle in a car that looks like that, you know you've got a coolant issue. That's one other issue I found there, which is handbrake, and it doesn't hold. So another thing to deal with. And now it's time for a lovely walk home, because obviously my car is in the hands of Boaty, who's had to take it home. That was the only way. But anyway, I'd like to thank Boaty very, very much for doing this on his day off. He only has one day off a week, and to spend it driving without really anything to gain means I owe him a lunch. And I'd also like to thank those chaps at Classic Car Solutions who were very, very helpful with a couple of niggles that the car needed sorting out before it could set off. But most of all, James. What a top chap. What an excellent, top, super duper chap. I'm very, very grateful to him for this. And that is indeed the end of the video. Except, of course, thank you all for watching it. And thank you for subscribing and liking and becoming channel members, etc. Thank you. Bye-bye.